Hoya has just announced two brand new circular polarizers. One of them sits at the entry level end of the market and the other one is its new top of the range polarizer filter. Now I've tested them both side by side to see just what the differences between the two filters are. So these new Hoya circular polarizer filters, there are two. There's the NX10 and the Ultra Pro. Now, as the name implies, the Ultra Pro represents the top of Hoya's filter range. It features 16 layers of anti-reflective coatings, and impressively for a circular polarizer, it offers 90% light transmission. Now, such a high light transmission is great as polarizers naturally cut down on the amount of light that enters the lens. When you hold these two polarizers side by side, you can actually see the difference straight away, but in a second we'll look at some comparison images. So the final feature of the Ultra Pro filter is it has scratch and stain resistance, so it's no problem wiping off any oily fingerprints or stray water splashes if you're out shooting in the rain. The NX10 series polarizer sits at the other end of the spectrum and it's aimed more at an entry-level market. So as such, it doesn't have quite the same level of those reflective coatings and it doesn't include that scratch and stain resistant. So you're going to have to be a little bit more careful with those mucky fingerprints. Of the two filters, the Ultra Pro is naturally the slightly slimmer of the two. However, vignetting wasn't an issue when I used either filter. The slightly slimmer design of the Ultra Pro means there's going to be less risk if you wish to stack filters together or if you are using a particularly wide angle lens. Now in terms of overall build quality, they're filters and they're pretty well made. They don't have the weight of those heavy brass filters by B+W, but to be honest, the weight never really bothered me. Lighter, heavier, they're filters. It's not going to make a great deal of difference. Anyway, let's crack on and look at some images. All of the pictures that you're about to see, they're taken with my trusty Sony A7R Mark I with the Zeiss 24-70 f4 lens. Now, I'm going to be showing you JPEG images straight out of the camera. There's been absolutely no post-processing whatsoever. All of the exposure settings are identical. So first up, that difference in light transmission. Now this image is taken with the Ultra Pro filter, and if I very quickly switch to the NX10 image, you can see that it's just a little bit darker. Now the NX10 image itself, it looks actually quite nice. The exposure has produced some lovely deep blues, but again, that's because of the lower light transmission. It means that the image is darker, so those colours are more saturated than the Ultra Pro. Now I've found that if I reduce the amount of exposure by around 0.6 EV to 2/3 of a stop, I can get the exposures to match each other. So that's the difference in real terms in the light transmission. Now the white balance on these images is also both set identically, and I noticed that when I was shooting the images and adjusting the exposures in Camera Raw to get them to match, I noticed that the NX10 filter is slightly cooler. So I took some more images using the X-Rite Color Checker Video Passport, and I used the white balance card in that. And what I found out is that when both filters are set to their maximum polarized setting, the Ultra Pro filter is actually a tiny bit warm and the NX10 is actually a little bit cooler than neutral. This is a fairly common feature for circular polarizers, and the degree of the ever so slight shift in color is also going to depend on how strong you have your polarized effect set on the filter. So again, nothing to concern with. Most filters do this, just letting you know about it. In terms of sharpness, I had to say I didn't notice any real drop in quality from either of the filters. Both seem to use pretty good glass, and it's worth noting that actually Hoya filters are made by Kenko Takina, who making these filters out in Japan. So I actually left this NX10 polarizer on my lens whilst walking back to the car, and I took a couple of quick grab shots of nice scenes that I spotted. Even having an affordable circular polarizer can make a real difference to your images, particularly landscape images such as these. Now, both of these filters are available in 37 to 82mm filter threads, and depending on the size you want, the price is obviously going to vary. You're looking at between £40 and £125 for the NX10 series filter and £75 to £285 for the Ultra Pro filter. Now, circular polarizers are amongst the most expensive filters that you can buy, but they should also be a must-have for landscape photographers and even travel and product photographers. I found that this NX10 filter, it's pretty reasonably priced from a brand that you can trust, and having used some cheap no brand filters from Amazon and eBay in the past, they might offer a cheap entry level point. But when it comes to filters, it's definitely a case of buy cheap, buy twice. Remember that you're putting this bit of glass, this filter, right in front of your lens, so you'll always want to get the very best that you personally can afford. Now, as for the Ultra Pro, I'm a big fan of this, mainly because of that light transmission. It's great just to get that little bit more light through the filter into the lens, and this is going to be replacing my current circular polarizer for my 24-70 f4 lens. So that's it. That's these two new Hoya polarizer filters. I'll put the details of these down in the description below. If you're new to the channel, thanks for watching and visiting. We do videos like this 2 or 3 times a week with me here in the UK and Locke out in Hong Kong. So if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, which I'll just put here. And here is just another video that YouTube is recommending you watch next. I'll see you next time.